Today we're going to do a FRAXEL treatment on Tina, and we're going to do a combination treatment of 1550 nanometer and 1927. We would always do the 1550 first because it's going deep and it will create some swelling, and then after the 1550 we would do the 1927. So the treatment can be painful if we didn't use any local anaesthetic, and we don't want that. We want her journey to be comfortable as possible because she's got to come back several times. And what the industry use is this type of local anaesthetic, which actually happens to be 23% lidocaine and 7% tetracaine, and it's called 23/7. And I'm going to use an amount that I know will be enough for her. So this amount here, which equates to probably about 10 mils, should be enough. So I'm going to start to apply onto the skin, and I want to come back slightly into the hairline because we want to make sure that we can cover that without any demarcation mark at the top of the face and around the sides. So I want to cover everything. I always do the earlobes because they will actually be suffering from a need from sun damage and also a need for rejuvenation. I'm going to come gently around the eyes because we do not want this product to go into the eye, and I would always have an eye bath ready for washout if we needed to. We're just coming underneath the eye. We do need to treat there, around the nose and across the top of the lip because we don't want that to be painful when we come to do that area, and around the neck area because we need to include the neck as part of the face because that will have had plenty of sun. So it doesn't need to be thick on the skin. I need to see it, and I'm going to spend just a little bit of time just massaging it in so that actually helps to numb a little quicker. And typically we would actually leave this on for up to 60 minutes. And so when you've got the patient relaxed, she can be reading a book or a magazine. I normally give them something like this, which hasn't been used, but a new one, so that if they feel that they're a little bit itchy, they can use the stick as opposed to their finger. Sometimes they'll get it onto their lip, which is okay. The tongue, sometimes they can feel it as well. It goes a little bit numb, but tell them not to touch it. So how's that feeling, Tina?
That's fine.
Sometimes the skin goes a little bit red afterwards. You're looking really for a reaction, which would be an irritation. So skin would become very red and lumpy. You don't want it to blister under this product either. But you can use this product for all skin types. So we'll leave Tina for approximately an hour. I'll keep popping back and forth just to check how she is, and then we'll actually start the actual treatment. The preparation for FRAXEL has already been begun. We've put the local anaesthetic on the patient and she's resting while that's actually working. What we do need to consider is the fluencies that we're going to actually use. So you should always make sure you have the latest parameter chart, which can be obtained from your representative. We need tips, and so that's important. And this tip is the 1550. And this is used mainly for the face and the body. If I want to treat small areas, or I want to treat around the eye, or maybe a small acne scar, I'll use the 7mm tip as well. Now this is the only thing, the rollers here are the only thing that touches the patient, and so it can be used more than once, as we've said. You have about 4 patient treatments out of one tip. The rollers, which detach just like this, just like a toilet roll holder, can be thrown away after each use. And so they slip on very simply, very easily, and these are new ones, and they lock into place, and then they roll. So this is going to be on the patient's skin. You can obtain bags of these, you don't have to sterilize them, they are for throwing away. And so it is important to have a approach with your treatments that you throw these away after every patient episode. You'll need a pencil, a white pencil, to mark the areas that you're actually treating. That's important. Blackout goggles for the patients, so that you're actually, when you're treating their face. And then these goggles are for the operator and anybody else that's actually in the room. And they will have a specific wavelength that will cover both 1550 and 1927. When you get the tip and it's new, it comes with a little bit of paper that allows you to pass the tip back and forth just to make sure that it's working properly and it's laying down the treatment zones in very straight lines. And also you'll find inside a bag of 4 rollers, which actually will allow you to use the tip 4 times. The patient can be offered some stress balls if they need them. It is helpful sometimes, particularly when you're using the device on the higher levels. So here we have the FRAXEL Dual, which is the 1550 and the 1927 wavelength combined. Here we have what's called the Zimmer, and this is a cooling device that actually, through this tubing, is integrated into our handpiece so that we can actually deliver constant cooling to the skin while we're actually treating, and this is important. So when you turn the Zimmer on, it's quite loud. The patient should be reminded that if they can't feel cold air on the face, then they should tell you. This is a screen that you'll be working from, and so this is the home screen. And here, mounted on top, is the handpiece, and it's always strapped down securely with some Velcro straps. Here it is. At the moment, it actually has a dummy handpiece on it because we don't want any dirt to get onto the lens. So we need to remove that when we calibrate. And the calibration port is just here on the top of the device. So the handpiece goes down into the calibration port, and as soon as it's engaged, then we start to get the calibration occurring. It will start to give us this barcode, which actually is meaning that it's actually calibrating. So it's asking us not to remove the handpiece from the device, otherwise you'll have to start again. So it just takes a few moments. And then while we're waiting for that, I'm going to the back of the device, to the back of the Zimmer, and just switching the Zimmer on because that needs a little time to cool. And so this is a little bit like a fridge, and it's taking condensation from the air and it's collecting it at the bottom here into a little container which needs to be emptied from time to time. The device will tell you when that's needed. So the cold air is coming out of the Zimmer through the grey tubing around, it's attached and it goes into the back of the handpiece, and that handpiece and tip is designed so that the cool air runs straight along this little tunnel here onto the skin. So it doesn't take long to calibrate. If I turn it off after this next patient, then I'd have to go through calibration again. But it doesn't take that long. Okay, so it's calibrated, and once it's calibrated, it brings me back to the home screen. It has several things here. It will allow me to change the volume of the device, and the volume is there to allow us to know that the machine is working correctly, and also that we're not going too fast. One of the safety factors built into FRAXEL is that it controls how fast we go, so that we actually make sure we are actually delivering the same treatment and it's correct. So these should be on. Some people think they're annoying, but they're actually there to actually help us deliver a good treatment. You can use the device in simulation mode, and so by pressing that, it takes us straight into the simulation mode. So it says simulate here, and we want to make sure that we're not treating people in simulate mode, because obviously it's not going to work. So I'm going to put a tip on. Now this is the 15mm tip, so that means 15mm of rolling against the skin, and I'm attaching it this way. Now inside you have a little chip which actually marries to this device, so I can't take this tip anywhere else. I can't use it on another FRAXEL, and it has a couple of magnets there that actually hold the tip in place so it doesn't fall off. Okay, and as I said before, the cold air is coming through here and it's coming directly onto the skin, so it's actually helping the patient and protecting their skin. As soon as I put the tip on, the machine recognizes two things. One, what size tip I have, in this case it's 15mm, and also how much tip I have left. And when it's actually exhausted, it will take it right down to the last part of the tip, so there's no wastage here, but you can estimate how much you're going to actually use per patient. So a full tip will offer you 4 to 5 full treatments for your patients' faces, and so you just need to divide the price of the tip by 4 or 5, and that's what it's going to cost you to do each treatment. Now this column is called energy, and this actually is about how deep the laser is going to penetrate into the dermis. So 1550 is going deep into the dermis, and as we go up in the energy number, the deeper the laser goes, but also the spot size changes. So the higher the number, the deeper the energy goes, and the bigger the spot becomes. So let me just show you. If you can just watch this number here. At the moment it's saying 382, which represent microns into the skin. And as we go up, you can see it's going deeper. What we need to think about is what we're trying to treat. And so when we get to around here, which is 10 millijoules, it's 555 microns into the dermis. That's a living part of the skin. And so if we were thinking about where we could apply this particular energy, it would be good to think about the thinnest part of the skin. So somewhere like the eye area, where we know it's very thin, we don't want to go very deep, but we want to create enough energy in the dermis to start to plump out that thin skin. As we go up in the number, down in our penetration, we can actually start to cover other areas. So this area here would be the beginning of a rejuvenation treatment. Maybe somebody a little younger, 30, 35. And then we actually get into somebody who is probably around 40, 45, and we can carry on up the scale. Now this is just over 1 millimeter into the dermis now, and this is actually really exciting because we know how deep we need to go. We're looking at the problem that's presented with us today, and we can actually diagnose how deep we need to go to actually get the heat down deep enough to actually be able to elevate that skin that's actually traumatized or actually is just old and is now creating a wrinkle. When you come to around this level, this might be suitable for somebody who's got shallow scars. And as you go up, this is shallow scars, this is a deeper scar, but it's also somebody who actually has very deep lines and wrinkles. And the maximum you can achieve with this device is 70 millijoules, giving you 1359 microns into the dermis. So you have all this array of depths that you can choose for your patients. So that's the first thing. We're going back to the screen 1550 again, and I've set the energy, or the millijoules, the penetration, to 20, just for today's demonstration. Next we're going to look at the treatment level. So we already know that the energy, or the millijoules, is diagnosis and how deep I need to go. The treatment level is actually about skin type. So treatment level 1 suggests that I'm going to treat 5% of the skin. And so 5% of the skin means that I've got to do lots and lots of treatments to actually achieve my 100% eventually. But if we think about the colour of the skin, so if you're white skinned, it doesn't really matter too much how high the treatment level becomes. That just represents the amount of aggression on the surface. Thinking back to what we said in the beginning was that FRAXEL was designed to be able to give you a treatment resurfacing the skin but without the downtime. And so the initial thoughts were to treat the patient 4 to 5 times to give you an overall 100% coverage. So setting the treatment level at 20% means that this patient's got to have 5 treatments. And but that's maybe not what we want to do on this occasion. So we can continue to go up, and you will see that the number, as the number increases, the percentage of skin that we're treating, and therefore the downtime becomes greater. Now at some point the device does this, so it won't let us go any further because it has a certain amount of wattage that it kicks out. So the 1550 gives you 30 watts of energy. When we get to a point where the machine won't allow you to go any further, it automatically tells you that you have to do more passes to achieve the energies that you want to lay down. So it's pretty smart. So this now is at 20 millijoules, treatment level 12. We know exactly how deep we're going into the dermis. We know exactly what percentage of skin we're going to treat. And the device has defaulted and told us to achieve this, we have to do 10 passes over the skin. Now therapeutically, we normally would do 8 passes. So let's just bring this down a little more. We've covered the energy, and we've covered the treatment level, and now we need to look at the passes. And so to get a therapeutic treatment, to be able to treat 29% of the skin, we have to make 8 passes. And if we do that, then each centimetre squared that we go over will actually deliver 150 lesions into the skin. So we're going to create microscopic treatment zones that are this depth, covering this amount of skin, if we actually complete 8 passes. If we actually decide that the patient is in pain, then we might be able to help them by increasing the number of passes. And if I increase the number of passes, you'll notice that this number drops. So this is something that you can consider if the local anaesthetic that you've put on is not sufficient for that particular patient. So it's not going to actually use any more of my tip, it's just going to take me more time. On the flip of that, if you want to leave the office early and you want to go home, then you can actually go a little faster. So as I drop the number, it won't allow me to do it. So it's saying I've got to do 8. That's great for the patient, I think. If we were to drop this down, then it will show you the number increases. So there's some safety built in for the patient's safety, but eventually you might be able to go home. There we are. You can do 4 passes instead of 8. You're still delivering the same amount of energy, you're still giving the same treatment, but it's going to be more painful because you're doing it in double the time. This isn't a suggestion that I would make because this is going to be more painful, but it's to give you an idea of how you can change the number of passes to accommodate the patient's pain. Normally we would increase the number of passes so that they come back for their next treatment. As we set these parameters, the speedometer down here changes. So everything in the pale, and when we're not in simulate it's blue, that's the speed at which we can go. When we encroach into the black bars, then the noise from the machine is increased and it gives you a very loud audible alert, which means slow down because you're not laying down the number of lesions that you want to treat. So you can see when you come back to normal mode, you can actually go quite fast with this device. Now I'm going to go back to the home screen. So we're back on the home screen now, and we're going to go into the 1927 wavelength. So I'm pressing here and I'm pressing treat. Now what's happened is I've come back, but I'm in the main screen and ready to fire. And so if you're ever showing anybody in simulate mode, when you come out of that, you really have to make sure you press it again, otherwise you come into the live laser. So we can demonstrate on this mode anyway. So it's saying now treat, it's giving us our tip, and the way it presents with the 1927 is completely different to the 1550. They both have different colour screens and the numbers are different as well. It's a superficial wavelength, it's working in the upper parts of the skin. The water is the target and it's going to be able to help with pigmentation. So we start here, energy, 5 millijoules, and it's telling us at 5 millijoules that we actually have a penetration of 192 microns into the skin, which is all very superficial. The treatment level here starts at 1, but it's giving us 20%. And again, the therapeutic pass is 8. So actually, when we go over to the energy levels, we can actually go up in 5s. So as we go up, we jump up in the number, the slight penetration, and it's just 4 microns at a time, 15 millijoules, and then 20 millijoules is our maximum. So the maximum you can penetrate with this particular wavelength is 202 microns. And you would use this, which is the highest level, for somebody that has very thick, leathery, sun-damaged skin. The treatment level, we always say there's 4 to 5 treatments with FRAXEL, but with this wavelength, you want to create a wow, because if you remove the patient's pigment in 1 or 2 treatments, and their skin looks fresh and bright and they can wear less makeup, then they're going to actually be coming back and talking about you to their friends. So as we go up in the treatment level, we jump by 5s. And so what this really means is that if I treat this patient on treatment level 5, I'm going to remove at least 40% of their pigment in 1 treatment. And so this means that they'll need 2 treatments if this is the particular wavelength that we're going to choose for them. Again, 8 passes, and we can increase the number of passes if it's too uncomfortable for the patient. But this is really on the surface of the skin, away from where the nerve endings are. The speedometer tells me that I can go quite fast as well, so this is a fast treatment, so we don't need to worry about rushing through. Most of the time these treatments will take about 20 minutes. I'm going to dry the skin thoroughly because the lasers are both looking for water, and if I don't dry the surface of the skin, then the energy will be lost there. Do you feel numb? So when you touch the skin, you can see whether or not you've removed all of the cream. It feels a little squeaky. Does it feel damp anywhere?
No.
Good. The next step is to mark the area out. So we're going to mark the area into treatable sizes. And what you need to think about here is when you're treating, the body, the face is curved and the handpiece is square, and so you have to be quite regimented in how you approach and how you cover the surface. So I'm going to actually section it off into squares or oblongs, and I'm going to use my device in a very straight way so that I'm actually, as if I was cutting the grass. And then in that way I'm not going to be tempted to go around the curve of the face, because if I go around a curve then I'm always going to be tempted to actually to go over an area again, or to under treat an area. So I'm coming straight down here and along there, making these squares and oblongs, coming around the eye slightly differently. So I'm marking the eye area out, and then I'm turning Tina's neck to the side, and I'm going to again make these oblongs that are going to be sizable enough for me to treat without going over any of the areas again. Okay, so that's marked out. Next thing we need to do is actually make sure that her eyes are protected. And so this device is very safe. In theory, if I was going to harm her eye, I would have to open the eyelid, place my tip on the eyeball, put my foot on the foot switch and roll the tip, which I think I would recognise as not being safe. But this is a laser, and so there are rules that you have to abide by. So putting her goggles on, and then I'm going to put my goggles on.